This time last year, the last thing Mike Johnson thought he would be right now is Speaker of the House. And this time next week, he may not be once again. Why? Because he is giving in and helping a Democratic ally in its fight against a Russia invasion. He's promising a Saturday vote on $61 billion in aid to Ukraine, plus bills to aid Israel and Taiwan. GOP hardliners like Marjorie Taylor Greene call it a betrayal. So can the rookie speaker hang on to that gavel? CNN's Manu Raju is, of course, on Capitol Hill and has been talking to everybody on the Hill. Manu, what's the latest?
Yeah, this is a key moment for the Speaker, his future, the House Republican Conference, the House itself, as there's a discussion underway about making it harder to oust a sitting Speaker. Of course, we saw the House being thrown into chaos last fall after the ouster of Kevin McCarthy, first time ever that happened in United States history. And now hardliners are threatening to do it again with Mike Johnson. Marjorie Taylor Greene leading the charge on that effort and warning that she may move ahead. Now, this is all, as this is playing out behind the scenes, there's an active discussion about changing the rules of the House to make it harder to oust a sitting Speaker, raising the threshold from now when one member can call for such a vote to many more members. That is still uncertain how that will go down, but these discussions were played out on the floor of the House themselves, including with Congressman Matt Gaetz, who just engaged in a tense confrontation with Mike Johnson over this very topic. Now, when I asked Marjorie Taylor Greene whether she was ready to move ahead today, she did not rule it out.
It's unprecedented. This has never happened in history, and it's completely wrong. He owes our conference the truth, and he owes Republicans answers.
Does that mean you will go forward today? Will you go forward today?
I'm waiting to find out what's going to happen.
What's holding you back?
I'm a responsible person.
You spoke to the Speaker. What was that conversation like?
Tense.
Why?
Because we don't want to pass this bill. We sought clarification that a change to the motion to vacate threshold would not be in the rule, and we did not get the answer that we wanted.
So this is very significant here, Dana, because the way this process is expected to work, first you have to approve a rule in the House. That actually sets the parameters for the floor debate, allows it to happen along straight party lines. Typically, that procedural vote, the rule, happens when Republicans vote for it, Democrats vote against it. This time, there are expected to be many Republicans on the hard right who are going to vote against it, meaning they need Democrats to carry it over the finish line. That will set the stage for the vote on the larger overall aid package on Saturday. But embedded in that rule could be that change for the motion to vacate, making it harder to oust a sitting Speaker. And that is the rub. That is the source of tension right now on the far right. So if Johnson goes forward with that, he is inviting a fight with the right flank of his party, but he can rely on Democrats to carry it over the finish line, and essentially Democrats to keep him in this position. Down.
That is some fascinating politics right there. Thank you so much, Manu. Appreciate it. Let's keep the discussion going. And I want you to listen to what Mike Johnson himself said to Jake yesterday.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on doing my job. Look, when you do the right thing, you let the chips fall where they may. I mean, that's my life philosophy, and that's how I govern here every single day. We try to get the best possible outcome for the American people, to move the ball forward for the American people. And I've got to stay focused on that every day and not all the drama.
Politico had a great headline that kind of sums it up. The YOLO speakership. Speaker Mike Johnson has entered his damn the torpedoes phase. For my parents watching, YOLO is you only live once.
It is a total YOLO moment. But look, here's what you have. These two separate things that have become fused. What is the future of Ukraine and the U.S. posture towards telling Russia, cool it, back off. You can't just invade other countries. And this internal drama inside the House Republican caucus about whether a handful of people get to control the majority of the leadership. You've got a clear majority of Democrats, but also a clear majority of Republicans in Congress in both chambers who believe that it's vital to the U.S. national interests and to the future of democracy to support Ukraine.
I want to bring in something that you reported this morning, Leanne, which is House Speaker Mike Johnson hasn't talked publicly about Chamberlain or Churchill, but he leaned into the analogy by describing himself as a wartime speaker. So is this his Churchill or Chamberlain moment, or is that maybe a little too much?
Well, it is a saying that has been used many times on Capitol Hill this week from Republicans and Democrats. Leader Jeffries, Chairman McCall as well. But I asked, yesterday Mike Johnson, I said, why are you willing to lose your job over this, over Ukraine? And he gave an extremely emotional response saying, look, I have received all the briefings. I believe the briefings. He said, I think that this is a moment in time that history will judge me, and I'm going to make the right decision. He said he has a son going to the Naval Academy, so he doesn't want his son having to go fight Russia. He wants the Ukrainians to do it. And so I think that there is this moment that Speaker Johnson has frustrated a lot of members because it took him so long to make a decision, but he has made the decision regardless of the consequences. And this idea to raise the threshold on the motion to vacate, this was pushed by a lot of some conservative members, but the ones who want to govern, are encouraging Johnson to move forward with this. Johnson hasn't made a decision yet, but there's so many dynamics happening in this.
And again, just so people understand, the motion, embedding motion to vacate, changing the threshold, what it does is, if it passes, it makes it harder for them to pull this again, to get rid of a speaker, to sort of lower the chaos threshold.
Yeah, you know, but what we're also watching is the transformation of somebody from a backbencher into a leader. And, you know, as a backbencher, Johnson was not where he is now politically. And we've seen this transformation, and we've seen it with leader after leader, whether it was John Boehner or McCarthy or whatever. And now he is acting as Speaker of the House rather than as the backbencher he was. And he finds himself on the opposite side of his former compatriots. And that is what often happens with leadership.
Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. Following the caucus meeting the Democrats had this morning, would you say that there's a more cohesive strategy for how your party is going to approach the effort to potentially vacate Speaker Johnson?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that there's a lot of support for the underlying bills. I think those are vital, whether it's the Ukraine legislation or legislation for Indo-Pacific defenses, or even the legislation containing a bill that I co-authored with regard to TikTok. With regard to Mr. Johnson, he hopefully will do the right thing, bring these to the floor, bring them for a vote successfully, and I think he'll be in good shape.
Well, Congressman, doing the right thing in your eyes could cost him his job, and he would need help from Democrats like you to keep his job. So are you willing to put it out there that you would back him if that motion to vacate moves forward?
If these bills were delivered favorably and the aid was favorably voted upon, and Marjorie Taylor Greene went up there with a motion to remove him, for instance, I think there's going to be a lot of Democrats that move to kill that motion. They don't want to see him getting punished for doing the right thing. As someone said the other day, this is a Chamberlain or Churchill moment, and if he ends up being the Churchill and stands up to aggressors around the world, I think he'll be rewarded.
He has been lobbied by members of his own party to include in this package of foreign aid bills language that would change the structure of the motion to vacate, the threshold, to make it harder to remove him. He seems open to it. From the sounds of it, some Republicans are wanting to vacate him for that. Would a change to the rules at all prevent you from voting for the aid package?
No, not necessarily, but I want to see what the rules package is.
Sure.
I think they're literally deliberating as we speak. And again, I think the underlying bills need to be brought to the floor for a vote and consideration. With regard to the other issues, those arcane technical issues, again, I'm hopeful that we can come to an understanding on that as well.
Some of your colleagues have been critical specifically of that portion of the bill that you helped to author regarding the forced divestiture of TikTok. Are you concerned at all that there might be blowback toward you or your party for moving forward with that?
No, I think this is doing the right thing. Again, as we illustrated before, when 352 House members, including the vast majority of the Democratic caucus, voted for this bill, it's not a ban, it's a divestiture. And it's really not about TikTok, it's about ByteDance, which is ultimately controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. And further published reports since we actually passed that bill have illustrated a number of things that give legislators even more pause, such as, for instance, the fact that the ByteDance parent company used user data of Americans against them and surveilling them. And also that the user data that was supposedly off limits to Chinese employees of ByteDance are routinely accessed by those employees. Again, another misrepresentation by the company. So I think I'm feeling good about this vote as well.